Vadakkam, Namaskaram and welcome to this session of Management Audit. So guys, in our earlier session, in the session of Basics of Management Audit, we had studied the relevance of Management Audit in our profession. Yes, Management Audit is non-statutory, which means that there is no law according to which management audit is compulsorily to be done by the management auditor. Any company has to get its management audit done. There is no such restriction. There is no such impediment which is there in the statute, in the law. There is no such a requirement which is there in the law. This is a non-statutory audit. And since it's a non-statutory audit, the companies are free to opt for or opt out of this audit. It's not mandatory that this audit is required to be done by the management. However, management will be highly benefited. It'll really be a big achievement for the management. Management will really benefit out of this particular audit called the management audit. This management audit is applicable on all the functions of the management, but the drawback is that carrying out audit for all the functions of the management is a tedious task. It'll take a lot of time. It'll take a lot of efforts, and the audit report can also be delayed, because if we try to audit the entire functions, all the functions of the management in one go, then it will be a Herculean task. So the best idea is, or the best way is, to break down the management audit into different parts. So to start with, we can opt for certain functions, certain specific areas of management audit, and then when that function gets over, then the next function can be started, or the next area can be started for management audit. So one by one we can get the audit done for all the areas, rather than doing an audit of consolidated audit of all the areas, which will be a tedious task in terms of money, in terms of efforts, and the audit report is also going to get delayed because of it. So in today's session, guys, we are going to see what are the different functions, what are the different areas in which management audit can be done, in which the management's decision-making power can be scrutinized, management performance can be assessed. What are those various functions in which management audit can be done? That is the subject matter of our today's discussion. So the name of the chapter is Management Audit in Different Functions. Before we come on to the management audit in different functions, it's pivotal to understand the difference between the goals and the objectives. So there are two words. Many a times these are interchangeably used, but they have different connotations, they have different meanings which are assigned to these words. Words are goals and objectives. What do you mean by goals and what do you mean by objectives? What are the differentiating factors between goals and objectives? That is what we need to ascertain before starting the management audit in different functions. Now, goals are broad, long-term, achievable aims for you. Long-term aims, achievable aims, which are broad in the sense that they do not specify the accuracy in terms of monetary terms, in terms of accurate planning. It is just a broad aim. It's just a broad goal. Like your broad goal in life is to be economically self-reliant, to be financially independent. That is your goal in life. That's a goal. That's a long-term goal. It's broad in nature, it's generic in nature. Okay, that is known as goal. Now, what are you going to do for achieving this goal? You are going to complete your CMA to achieve this goal. So completing CMA becomes an objective. What is an objective? Objective is specific action plan devised to achieve the goal. Specific action plan devised to achieve the goal is known as objective. So the objective is that you need to complete your CMA. You need to qualify CMA in your first attempt for becoming financially independent. So the characteristic of objectives are that they are specific and they are measurable actions to achieve overall goals. That is the difference between objectives and goals. Really important to appreciate this difference between objectives and goals. Now let us come on to the book and let's read this differentiating factor between objectives and the goals. So what are corporate objectives? Corporate objectives are overall objectives of an organization. It's an overall objectives of the organization that influence the direction of corporate strategy. So how will corporate strategy lead to corporate objectives? That is the corporate objectives. In other words, what organization seeks to achieve is corporate objective. The corporate objective of General Electric Company, GE, now you must have heard of this name or you might not have heard of this name. This is world's biggest conglomerate. It's a biggest. It is one of the largest companies which deals in everything. Virtually, it is in every sector: industrial sector, power sector, wind turbine sector, water turbine sector, in electronics, or you name it, and this company is into all those areas. So the aim of General Electric, the corporate objective of General Electric is to become most competitive enterprise in the world by being number one or number two in the market share in every business the company is in. So the objective is to be number one or number two in every business the company is in. That is the corporate objective of G. Then what is the objective of Apple Computers? Apple Computers are pioneers in offering computing solutions. So to offer best possible personal computing technology and to put that technology in hands of as many people as possible. That's the objective which Apple pursues. And this is the objective which GE pursues. What will be the goal of these two companies? Goal, of course, will be to be profitable, to have a good market share, to be growth oriented, development oriented, to acquire customers' trust. So these will be the broad goals which these two companies must be chasing. But what are the specific objectives? Their specific objectives, they have to be number one or number two in every area they are in. This is a specific objective of these two companies. So these are corporate objectives. What is the difference between objectives and goals? Goals include broad primary outcome. Objectives are measurable and they help us to achieve the goals. They are generic in nature, they are specific in nature. Goals enumerate broad target to be achieved. Objectives are to ascertain how long will it take to achieve the target and how what resources are required and available for achieving the target. For example, you have to be financially reliant. Your aim is to be, your goal is to be financially independent. For how long will you will you take to achieve this goal? It will depend on how early can you become a CMA. I presume that you become a CMA in next 6 months. So your goal will be achieved in next 6 months because of the objective that you will become a CMA in next 6 months. So objectives will tell you how quickly will you realize your goals. Goals are the plan of business's future. We generate a list of potential achievements. So goals are plan of business's future and what business tries to achieve, that is goals. The actual steps we plan to take to get those achievements are objectives. So what are the actual steps which we are undertaking to achieve the goals? They are known as objectives. So that is the difference between corporate objectives and corporate goals. Now the next topic which we are going to study is corporate culture. Corporate culture. So what do you mean by culture? What do you mean by corporate culture? So guys, you might have heard that this particular company is very employee friendly. You might have heard that Google is very employee friendly. They offer very good perquisites to the employees. They offer congenial working environment to the employees. They offer ample opportunities to grow and develop in their particular organization. And this is what makes Google the employer of the year. So what do you mean by culture? Culture doesn't mean growth. Culture doesn't mean profitability. Culture doesn't mean fulfilling the objectives. Culture means the value system or the beliefs or the behavior which you offer to your employees. So in a nutshell, what do you mean by corporate culture? Corporate culture means the way the behavior and the atmosphere in the entire organization is, how employee friendly is the organization, how an organization treats its employees, how the organization treats its all the other stakeholders, what is the approach of the organization towards its goals and targets and achievements, and does it give a lot of importance to the achievements and the targets even more than its employees. So even at the cost of the employees is the management admin that we need to achieve our targets and goals. Even if the management if the employees have to work for, say, in 3 shifts, they have to work overtime. Even then, is the management insensitive enough to keep the production on, keep the production cycle on? That is the consideration, or that is the relevance which culture gives to an organization. So guys, big organizations like Google, like Microsoft have got amazing culture within their premises. They have got many employee welfare programs. They have got many programs where employees can be benefited out of their programs. Employees get equal opportunity to grow, develop their soft skills, their hard skills, their personality as such. So The environment, if environment is congenial, if the environment is cozy, if the environment is friendly, then it adds on to the joy of working in that environment, and that is known as corporate culture. So corporate culture means what kind of policies, what kind of value system, what kind of beliefs, what kind of behavior is pursued by an organization management. And always remember, guys, that the employees will do whatever the management is doing. Employees will actually be a replica of the management. If management has got an attitude of insensitivity towards the employees, then all the employees at the lower level will also be insensitive towards their juniors. So it flows from the top. Corporate culture flows from the top. Whatever top management is doing, that same thing will be done by the people below. So that is the significance of corporate culture. So corporate culture means beliefs, values, and behaviors which are pursued by an organization, and primarily these beliefs, these values, and these behaviors can be governed in these aspects. So what are the various values or behaviors which an organization can be said to have its trait in? So number one is outcome oriented. Is your organization too much outcome oriented? Too much results oriented? Is the management blinded by the results that they cannot even see that employees are suffering? Is the management too blinded by the results that they cannot see that society is suffering? Is your management too much outcome oriented? Are they only focusing on profits? Are they only focusing on the results? Are they ignoring all the relevant aspects of management and business? That is the question which we need to cater to when we are seeing the values, and specifically outcome or achievement values which are connected with the organization. So that is the first value which we need to see in an organization. How well is it knitted around its outcome? How seriously are they taking their outcome? How seriously are they taking calls on their outcomes? Are they totally focusing only on outcomes and nothing else? That is outcome orientation. Second, people orientation. Now, how sensitive is the management towards its people? How fair do they treat their people? How friendly do they treat their people? How respectfully do they treat their people? Are they respectful towards the employees of the company? Is the management respectful towards employees of the company? Or is management treating employees as just workers, and they would just do the work non-stop and they will not get any respect from the management? Would respect be an essential element of the behavior pattern of the top management? That is the question which we need to see in the second value, which is people oriented. Is our organization people centric? Is our organization people focused? Are they focusing on people? Are they focusing on the employees of the company or not? That is a question which we need to answer to when we are seeing the second value of the organization, which is people oriented. Third value, team oriented. So does the organization rewards collaborative efforts? Do they recognize team efforts of all the people? Do they give due recognition or due importance to people who are working in teams? Because it's always a collaborative effort, it's always a team effort that ultimately bears fruit for any organization. So is the management really interested in promoting teamwork in the organization? Are they team oriented or not? Do they reward collaborations? Collaboration means when people work together. Do they reward that or not? That is the value which is really important from a corporate culture perspective, that a corporate or a company should value or reward people who are working together, and they should reward the teams rather than individual employees. They should promote a working of all the employees in teams. Next is attention to details. This is an important aspect of any organization, whether they are keen to really harp upon their focus and energies on small things, whether they seek perfection or not, whether they seek precision or not, whether management is focusing on precision or not, or are they just looking at overall delivery of goods, whether they are of good quality or not, whether some minor mistakes are there in the product, it's really okay for them, or are they seeking perfection? What are they seeking? What is the management goal? Is it perfection? It is precision? Or is it just generating profits out of short-term supply of goods? That is known as attention to details. Whether management is really paying its due homage or attention to very minute things like packaging. Packaging has to be perfect, right? Look and feel of the product has to be perfect. How does it look? It should be perfect. whether management is focusing on details or not. That is the question under consideration. Stability is a very, very important aspect of any organization. Security. Stability means security. Whether the employees feel safe in the organization, that yes, I can spend my entire life till retirement in that organization. Whether employees can get that feeling from the organization or not. Whether the employees are satisfied while working in the organization or not. Whether the employees are really okay and really willing to cooperate with the management in terms of loyalty. Whether the employees will be loyal or not. Whether they feel secured in the company, whether they get the confidence that yes, I'll be able to spend my entire life in this particular company, I'll be loyal to the company, whether this stability consideration is there in the employees or not, whether the security is there in the employees or not, whether they're secured or not. And why only employees? This factor is also relevant to customers. Whether after consuming the product for the first time, will the customer come back to the company for buying its products or not? Whether the customers will be interested in attaching with the company for a longer period of time, for a longer duration or not. Whether they feel secured with the company, that yes, if this company is offering something, it will be of good quality only. Whether this feeling is there in the customers or not. So guys, there's a very big fast food chain serving South Indian cuisine, which is Sarvana Bhavan. So Sarvana Bhavan has its outlets in North India as well. Of course, it's a fast food chain. It's a South Indian food chain of South, but it has its outlets in North India as well. And why only India? It has its outlet all over the world. So at least as soon as I see Sarvana Bhavan anywhere in the world when I travel, I'm satisfied that yes, I'll get good food over here. That security is there in my mind. They have been able to generate that security in my mind that yes, I'll get good South Indian food over here. So whether the business is able to provide you security, whether it is able to provide you safety, whether it is able to provide you a predictable course of action. So I can very well predict that if I'm going to eat in Sarvana Bhavan, I'll be satisfied. I can predict it. So whether a business can also give you this predictable course. So this factor of stability is not only applicable to employees, but also applicable to the customers of that particular business. So stability or safety is one of the very important elements of value chain or the culture which the organization follows. Innovation, whether the organization promotes experimentation, whether the organization promotes newer ways of doing the same things with more efficiency, whether the organization promotes that or not. So innovation is there in the root of any organization, whether the organization is willing to experiment, willing to come up with new ideas, and willing to really explore newer ways of doing things or not. So I'll tell you a very good example of innovation. So comparing government organizations with private organizations. Guys, in government organization, innovation is not rewarded a lot. So in PSUs, in government organization, you will be rewarded if you maintain the status quo. Same things should go in the same way in the long run. So in government organization, innovation is not valued a lot. It will not be praised a lot. But in private organization, in private concerns, innovation is really valued a lot. But along with valuation, along with valuing the experimentation and innovation bit, we should also take in mind that innovation comes with its cost of failure. So if you promote experimentation, then it also will have some cost of failure. Some time will be lost in experimentation in the experiments which did not go through, which became a failure. So that risk is also to be taken by the management, that innovation will come with its own risk. So now it's your wish whether you want to inculcate experimentation or innovation within your workings with respect to your employees or not. So innovation is a value which is fostered by many organizations. And finally, aggression. How aggressive or how particular are you? How determined are you towards your goals? And aggression can sometimes leads to insensitivity also. I'll give you an example. So during my articleship days, I was selected in two big fours for my articleship, which was KPMG and EY. EY in terms of growth, in terms of work, in terms of quality of clients was slightly better than KPMG. But still I chose KPMG for my articleship. Why? Because I came to know that EY is a very, very aggressive firm and it has got a deep competitive spirit to the extent of that you might be required to work for late nights consistently, Saturdays, Sundays, and your work-life balance might go for a toss. All these things I'd heard for EY. So I left EY and I joined KPMG. So that is how aggression can be, a negative factor in your business also. It can tarnish your corporate image also. If you're too aggressive, you should not be too aggressive. You should not be too goal oriented, or you should not be too competitive in your spirit. Sometimes you should be okay in rejecting your orders or rejecting your sales if your workers are not in the position to work. Sometimes you should be ready to sacrifice your sales or profits for the sake of your workers. So too much aggression is definitely not acceptable to many employees and to many stakeholders. So too much aggression is also harmful. So these are the value system. Value change will define a culture of an organization. The culture can be created by these parameters, and these parameters is useful in creating any culture. These values are useful for creation of any corporate culture. Now, what are the ways in which we can build and sustain a good culture? How can we build a good culture and sustain it over a longer period of time, keep it over a longer period of time? These are the steps which we can take to build a culture and sustain it over a period of time. Now guys, I'll tell you a very important thing, right? Nothing is good or bad in terms of culture. So if EY is too aggressive, nothing bad in it, right? If you cannot be too aggressive, you leave EY. But there are people who are coping up with the aggression of EY and they're growing. So nothing is wrong or right. It depends on who you are and what do you want to do in your life. That's it. So nothing is right or wrong. We should not say that, oh, EY should change their career. No, their culture. No, we cannot say that, because that culture is reaping benefits for EY. Similarly, to each his own. If you don't want to join EY, don't join EY. Who's asking you to join EY? Don't join EY. No one is forcing you to join EY. But to ask them to change their culture is absolutely undesirable. So corporate culture, it varies. Like innovation is not there, is minimally there in government organizations. So you should not say, oh, government organizations should change their culture. No, it's the way they work. It's the way government machinery works. And that is their culture, which they can maintain. They can say there's nothing wrong in it. We want to maintain this culture only. And they are happily maintaining that culture. So it's very, very important that, you should build and sustain culture. So the first step in building and sustaining culture is to identify common traits. You have to identify what is your value system that goes into your thread of your organization. What are the values that you really feel that your organization drives in? Those values should be listed. Those values should be identified, and you should be able to confidently say that, yes, these are my value system. These are my value chains. Second, convene an employee group who can assess the validity of these traits. So the value traits which you have identified, we need some people who can really assess the validity of these value traits, and wherever a change is required, they can suggest the change also. So that team of people should be chosen from amongst the organization, various levels, various departments. People should be chosen who can validate each of the key traits which you have identified. Third stage is to assess the traits. You need to really delve into the traits, assess their pros and cons, assess their positivities, their negativities. Everything is required to be assessed, and after this assessment, you need to summarize the findings. Whatever findings you have come out with, those should be summarized. And wherever a change is required, that if you say that no, we are too aggressive, we should change our aggression, if the conclusion is that in this findings, then an action plan is to be devised and followed by the entire organization as a whole. So create culture, management action plan, create a culture and an action plan that can support your findings. You create a culture and an action plan that can support your findings.